fantastic on offense. But you're right. I do think UCLA definitely has that Washington game circled, and Washington being the big dog in the Pac-12 this year, they're going to get every team in the Pac-12 this year. They're going to get their best shot. So it's that schedule. How can they, if they can win against Auburn, if they can finally solve the puzzle that's been Stanford for them the past couple of years, for me personally, I'll go ahead and make the pick here. I can make it on the balance on Saturday now. I think Auburn does get this win because it's in Atlanta. It's essentially a home game. I think their mindset is tougher. I think they're much bigger and more physical team, and Gus Malzahn has done a great job in the SEC against these SEC teams. He beat Georgia and Alabama last year, and I think he'll take care of Washington too.
Well, certainly, we'll be watching that game very closely. Again, I think there's more eyes on the number 10 ranked Auburn that can make really a college football playoff selection this year is the Auburn Tigers, and I think they got a lot to prove. And my prediction is they'll definitely beat Washington. For so many said reasons and then some, but absolutely. Gus Magazin, is that how you say his name? I think
Malzahn.
Gus Malzahn. You can't rule him out, man. You can't rule him out. I know I'm sounding like a husky hater. I love dogs. Everybody knows that. But I just you ask which team is the bigger win for, and I just think there's too much on the plate for Auburn because of where they're playing at. If they were reversing, and they were playing on the road at Washington, I probably would go the other direction. But I just think there's so much on the line, and Washington's used to getting snubbed. Washington's used to nobody taking a look at them. Everybody's going to be looking at Auburn from game one, and game one starts with Washington.
Yeah, and I think it's a case of what have you done for me lately. We see Washington kind of just play themselves out of the playoff every year. Losing to Stanford late just doesn't help their cause, and you just wonder about their scheme as the season goes. The players just get tired out, but they just seem to fall apart towards the end of the year every year. And I think Auburn's going to win this game. And Chris Peters is a hell of a football coach, but he's just not there yet, taking that next step to being an elite there at Washington. So I just think Auburn's going to get this win.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree with you. See, we agree on something.
We agree. We finally agree. Circle this date because that doesn't happen much, and I don't think we agree on this next topic though. What we're getting ready to talk about now, I think Washington Auburn is the biggest game of the weekend, definitely. But the most intriguing is one that's here a lot closer to home, and that is Michigan and Notre Dame. And trying to host a show and keep my feelings out of it at the same time is kind of hard to do. So, Tom, I will start off with this question here. If you had to choose one quarterback to lead your team on a game-winning drive at the end of a game-winning drive, will it be Shea Patterson or will it be Brandon Wimbush?
I'm going to go with Brandon Wimbush on that one. I think he's already solidified his job there at Notre Dame, and I think there's already all kinds of buzz talking about that, and I think he has the start against Michigan, so that's who I would put my trust in. The guy you're going to start against Michigan in game one, week one, that's your starter right there. And you got to believe in it that he's the guy that'll take you to that win.
I start the conversation on this game with that question only because I believe this game is going to come down to what quarterback plays the best, which quarterback doesn't actually lose the game. We saw Brandon Wimbush fall apart at the end last year, started in that Miami game. Miami just destroyed him. Ian Book comes in, and then Ian Book comes in and wins the bowl game for him, too, against LSU. Brandon Wimbush has confidence problems throwing the ball downfield, and it affects his short passing game too. He's a dynamic runner. He is a pretty good quarterback, but he lacks confidence. And during the offseason, I want to know progress. If he's gained his confidence back, how he looks now, if he's going to be a confident passer downfield, and he should be. They have three receivers, 6'4" or taller. Just throw those balls up to these guys. He lacks confidence. And then on the other side, we got Shea Patterson. He's 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions against top 25 teams. He has like a 4-6 record at Ole Miss. But Michigan and ESPN, I'll throw it out there too, thinks he's the savior of the Michigan football program right now. So he's a 4-6 record at Ole Miss, 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions against top 25 teams versus the lack of confidence that Wimbush showed last year and what he's done to better himself in the offseason.
Well, we all know that you are a Notre Dame homer, but you know what? At the same time,
the hell out of Notre Dame. Every week we talk about the Irish.
No, actually, I'm not opposing you on this particular scenario. I think I've said it before. I think Jim Harbaugh is the most overrated, most overpaid coach in the Big Ten. Maybe now next to Urban Meyer and what we know about Urban Meyer. But I certainly think that. I think we talked about this last week on the show, or one of the weeks that Michigan doesn't necessarily have to beat Notre Dame and necessarily have to have a 500 season for Jim Harbaugh to solidify his job. I still think Jim Harbaugh is going to be on the hot seat sooner than later. So I don't have a problem at all with this game. I think that it's going to be a good matchup. I think that, obviously it's at Notre Dame Stadium. It's going to be one of the most watched games of the weekend. It's going to be certainly one of the premier games, probably one of the games that have most highest rating, obviously because it's Michigan and Notre Dame. But I certainly do think that let me propose this question to you, the same one you proposed on the last one. Which is the bigger win? Is it a bigger win for Michigan or a bigger win for Notre Dame?
It's a bigger win for Notre Dame because they do not play in the conference. They don't have a conference championship game, which we know now conference championship games don't really matter in the eyes of the committee. But they don't have that one extra game to solidify their season and make their case for the playoff. In Michigan's case, just to compare it to Notre Dame, Michigan can lose this game. They can lose it close, as long as it's not a big blowout win. But if Michigan goes 4-0 in November, that's going to mean wins against Michigan State and Ohio State. Urban Meyer is going to be king of Ann Arbor again just for beating Ohio State. So they can lose this game but go undefeated in November, which that includes beating Ohio State, obviously. That's the last game of the season. So this game means more to Notre Dame. Notre Dame has a really tough schedule, too. We saw Notre Dame lose to Georgia last year at home, but that was by 1 point, and Georgia goes undefeated, really. They lost to Auburn, but made the national championship game. When the rankings came out for the playoff last year with that one loss to Georgia, Notre Dame was in the playoffs. They were actually ranked third at one point because of that one loss. But that's because of their schedule. They play at Virginia Tech. They play against Florida State. They play Stanford. They play USC this year. But just not having that one more game to really sell the committee on why they should be in, I think it just means more to Notre Dame to win this game.
Here's the thing, and here's absolutely the thing that Notre Dame has to do. There's a couple things they have to do. They've got a pretty good passing game. I think when you say there's a lot of hype about the Irish receiving corps, despite the loss of that I can't pronounce but ends with St. Brown. Yeah, that guy. And Miles Brooklyn and Chase Claypool are great. But one of the things that Notre Dame has to do, Michigan is Achilles' heel this year, is going to be at the safety position. If they can dominate that and hit that Achilles' heel, they're going to have a very, very good chance of winning this ball game against the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, and Michigan's defense is really just being touted as unworldly, a colossus of a defense, one of the best defenses in the country. But that's off last year's stats, and let's look at who they played against last year. It's that Big Ten schedule, so it's teams like Rutgers and Maryland, and those teams like that. But when they went against the big boys in the conference, it was a 42-10 loss to Penn State. It was an 11-point loss to Ohio State. They're not scoring very many points against teams like I think they played Wisconsin last year and also only scored 10 points and giving up 20 something. So when they go against these top 25 teams, they're giving up a lot of yards and a lot of points. But at the same time, everybody's talking to them like their defense is world beaters. And maybe their defense is really good, but guess what? The Irish play defense too. The Irish are also a top 10 defense that returned 9 starters from last year. And not only do they return 9, they're actually bringing in a 10th starter because they have a Navy transfer, Alohi Gilman, who's one of the top safeties in the country. So that is also going to play very well for the Irish. The Irish play defense too. Notre Dame's problem is replacing the offensive line, losing Quentin Nelson and Mike McGlinchey to the NFL draft, and Josh Adams, to the Philadelphia Eagles. They got a lot of stuff, a lot of talent to replace up front. They still have Sam Mustipher, who I think is going to be a first-round pick on the offensive line. But what are they going to be at running back this year? Is Jafar Anderson? Is Dexter Williams suspended? He's not suspended. Nobody really knows. I know he's going to dress Saturday, but nobody knows if he's going to play. And Tony Jones Jr., who got some action last year, not much. But replacing all that talent, going against that hyped-up Michigan defense is going to be the matchup of the weekend.
Well, here's the thing. I know you Irish fans are the loudest in the room, and next to Ohio State fans, and I know we're going to be joined by a huge Ohio State fan here at the bottom of the hour. So I know you guys like to toot your horn and say, hey, we got a pretty gosh darn offensive line. We're not going to miss a beat. Here's the truth, and here's the reality of it. You're going to miss a multiple beat. 2 of those you lost in the first round of the NFL draft. One of those beats is beating the drum right here in Indianapolis. So with the loss of Quentin Nelson, so the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are going to miss multiple beats on the offensive line, and they got some holes to fix. Let's hope they can get it done, and let's hope that they've addressed those issues with that line before Michigan's game, because that could very well be Notre Dame's Achilles heel right there.
Right, and that's exactly why Brandon Wimbush needs to throw this ball around the yard. He needs to throw with confidence. He needs to hit his receivers. They're going to spread Michigan open so they can get that running game going. Notre Dame under Chip Long has been a run-first offense. They really try to dictate the game with the run and up the middle, smash mouth style. Even now the pistol and shotgun formation, they're stuff it down your throat team with the run under Chip Long. But Wimbush is going to throw the ball around the yard, and that's why I think this game is going to come down to the better quarterback play. And that's why I started this topic off, the Notre Dame-Michigan topic off. Which quarterback would you take, Wimbush or Shea Patterson? Because at the end of the game, with these 2 defenses, it is going to come down to the better quarterback play.
Well, absolutely, and I honestly, there again, as we always say, as Mike Tyson says, everybody's got to play until somebody gets punched in the face. Here's
That's
the
right.
thing. Michigan is quite arrogant enough to believe that they can go into Notre Dame and beat the Irish and make a statement inside the Big Ten, because that's what they want to do. They want to make the statement that they are the new Ohio State. They want to make the statement that they don't have an overpaid, overrated coach. There's a lot of statements that they want to make that they will make with a win against Notre Dame. So I think it's going to be a bloodbath. I think it's going to be
it's going to be low scoring. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say it very well may come down to who controls the field goals, if you will. It very well might be one of those type of games. But I know we're joined now, and I know you're the host, Rick. But hey, I got the
you got the switchboard.
I got the switchboard. Adam-Jividen gives us a call. How you doing, sir? Let me turn your mic on. How are you, sir?
Good. I'm doing good. How are you, Tom?
Fantastic. We're going to affectionately call you that from this point forward, Buckeye Adam, because you are the biggest homer. You are the biggest Ohio State, Cleveland Cavaliers homer that I know, and that's why you're the perfect person to have on the show. Rick-Riggin, our host tonight of Breaking Rank. Obviously, I host The Balance. Thanks so much for joining us. We do want to talk with you a little bit about Urban Meyer and the Buckeyes, but go right ahead, Rick. It's your show. I'll let you take the lead, sir.
Hey, what's going on, Adam?
Every now and then.
And we were currently talking Notre Dame, Michigan. I'm sure you want to jump right into this conversation real bad, don't you?
My parents actually live in South Bend, and so I have a respect for Notre Dame, and I utterly hate Michigan. So, I'm all Irish this weekend.
You got a prediction for this game?
For Notre Dame, Michigan, I think I think Shea Patterson is not nearly as good as people look at from his year at Ole Miss.